It's said that among flight attendants these days competition is fierce for routes to the United States, so much so that some even take extra English classes, hoping that if they get assigned to a US route, they might have a chance to build a relationship with an American man. The protagonist of our story today is a French flight attendant known among her colleagues for being both strong and beautiful. While performing her duties as usual, she suddenly collapsed. An American man rushed to her side and in front of everyone began to unbutton her shirt. She was powerless to move. What on earth was happening? My name is Claire, and I'm a flight attendant from Paris. Flying has been my dream since I was a child. The freedom of working above the blue sky and traveling the world is the most perfect happiness for me. I still remember the feeling of my first flight at age 15. It was like walking on soft clouds. That's why I became a flight attendant. And in the 5 years I've been doing this job, I've never once regretted my decision. That day was just like any other, a flight from Paris to Austin, Texas. Though a long-haul flight, it was a familiar route. I had a brief chat with my colleagues and did my pre-flight physical check. I've always been confident in my physical fitness. The strength to handle long-haul flights with ease is something I take pride in. Claire, you look perfect as always today, said Marie, the lead flight attendant, with a smile. I smiled back. As soon as we land, I want to hit that famous wellness spa in Austin. The flight began smoothly. Everything proceeded as normal, from takeoff and meal service to duty-free sales. But then, about halfway through the journey, the incident occurred. As I was preparing drinks in the galley, I felt a sharp pain in one side of my chest. At first, I thought it was just fatigue. I tried taking several deep breaths, but the pain only intensified. "Are you okay?" asked Sophie, a colleague next to me. "Just a little chest pain," I replied, my voice trembling. In an instant, it felt as though someone was pressing down hard on my chest, making it impossible to breathe. Every inhalation was a sharp stabbing pain. Sophie's face began to blur, then sharpen, then blur again. The scene in front of me started to shake. "Claire!" Sophie's voice seemed to come from far away. I tried to grab onto the service cart, but my hands wouldn't obey. My legs grew weak and I crumpled to the floor. My breathing became shallow and rapid, like trying to breathe underwater. My consciousness began to fade. My lungs aren't working. As my consciousness was about to slip away completely, I could faintly hear the commotion of the passengers. In a normal situation, I would be the one calming everyone down. But now, I was the one in need of help. I don't know how much time passed. I only heard people calling my name, the sound of hurried footsteps, and snippets of confused conversation. "Get the oxygen mask, quickly!" That was Marie's voice. The cool plastic of the mask touched my face, but breathing was still agonizing. My lungs felt as heavy as lead. My mind was slipping away. The thought, "Am I going to die like this?" flashed through my head. I remembered my conversation with Marie before takeoff. I haven't even been to that spa in Austin yet. I can't die like this. And then, amidst the chaos, I heard a man's clear voice. "Please make way. I'm a physician." His tone was calm but firm. Through my blurry vision, the figure of a man appeared. He looked American. He quickly began to assess my condition. "This looks like a spontaneous pneumothorax. We need to release the pressure immediately." His diagnosis was delivered with utter confidence. I heard my colleagues murmuring with concern. "An osteopath? Is he a real doctor?" In that moment, I could feel their skepticism. In Europe, alternative and osteopathic medicine are not always fully accepted, but my situation was too critical to debate medical philosophies. "If we don't act now, she could die." His voice was resolute. Though my consciousness was fading, I saw him open a medical kit and take out a large needle. As my colleagues hesitated, he began to unbutton my shirt without a second thought. "Wait a minute!" Marie cried out. "There's no time," he replied, his words short and decisive. He parted my shirt, exposing my chest. I could sense the shocked stares of the passengers and the confusion of my colleagues, but the man's hands were perfectly steady. He located a precise spot and prepared the needle. "You're going to be okay," he said softly. In that instant, I felt a strange sense of peace. His eyes held both confidence and warmth. He inserted the needle into my chest without hesitation. I felt a sharp sting at first, but soon I heard a soft whoosh sound and the suffocating pressure began to subside. It felt as though a great weight had been lifted from my chest. With each breath, I could feel oxygen slowly filling my lungs again. Life was returning to my body. My consciousness gradually cleared, and I began to see the faces of the people around me. "She's breathing." Sophie's voice was filled with relief. A collective sigh of relief, and then applause erupted from the passengers. The man was still kneeling beside me, monitoring my condition. "Thank you," I managed to say, my voice hoarse. He smiled. Osteopathic medicine. The term echoed in my head, a field of American medicine that wasn't widely known back home, focusing on a holistic approach. But in that moment, the fact that this doctor had saved my life was clearer than anything else. After the emergency first aid, the plane continued its journey to Austin as scheduled. My condition stabilized, but Ethan stayed by my side the entire time. He periodically checked my pulse and asked if I was breathing comfortably. His touch was warm and his gaze sincere. "As soon as we land, you need to go to the hospital immediately," he told me. "This was just emergency stabilization." I nodded. When the plane landed in Austin, an ambulance was already waiting. My friends said their goodbyes with worried expressions. Ethan explained my condition in detail to the paramedics, including the procedure he had performed. "May I go with her?" he asked an official. "What is your relationship to the patient?" the paramedic asked. There was a moment's hesitation. We were, after all, complete strangers. But Ethan answered without missing a beat. "I'm the physician who treated her on the plane. I may need to provide more details." And with that, he got into the ambulance with me. I still remember the warmth of his hand holding mine tightly on the way to the hospital. Even though I wasn't fully lucid, I could clearly see his face. Little did I know that this chance encounter would change my life forever. The moment he unbuttoned my shirt and plunged that needle into my chest, he didn't just save my life, he gave me a new one. As I looked at the face of the man who seemed destined to find me on the brink of death, my consciousness faded as if falling into a deep sleep. When I opened my eyes in the hospital, the first thing I saw was a white ceiling. For a moment, I was confused by the unfamiliar surroundings. As I tried to move, a pain in my chest brought me back to reality. The memories from the plane came flooding back, the suffocating pain, and the man who saved me. Looking around the room, I saw a man dozing in a chair in the corner. It was Ethan. Had he been here all night? The morning sun streaming through the window illuminated his face. Even in sleep, he had a calm, serious expression. I smiled to myself without realizing it. I couldn't believe someone would stay up all night for a foreign stranger. In Paris, that would be unimaginable. Was this warm-heartedness a part of Texan culture, or was it just something special about this man named Ethan? The sound of me shifting in the bed caused Ethan to open his eyes. He immediately walked over to check on me. "You're awake. How are you feeling?" His voice was still calm and steady. "Better. Thank you so much." My voice was raspier than I expected. Ethan handed me a glass of water with a smile. "Your blood oxygen levels were stable all night. Don't worry." It was only then that I noticed he was still in the same clothes from the flight, wrinkled and worn. The dark circles under his eyes didn't diminish his composed demeanor. "You were here all night?" I asked. He smiled sheepishly. I later found out that he had handled everything from my admission to all the insurance documents. For a foreign patient who didn't speak the language fluently, this would have been a nightmare, but he did it all without a word of complaint. "Thank you, truly. I don't know how to repay you." He shook his head. As a medical professional, it was the right thing to do. A few hours later, my fellow flight attendants came to visit with a beautiful bouquet of flowers. Sophie, Marie, and Juliet all had tears in their eyes as they hugged me. Ethan, who had been by my side until then, gave a polite nod and stepped aside to give us space, a thoughtful gesture that didn't go unnoticed. I can't believe that American guy really ripped open your shirt and stuck you with a needle. Sophie, who had witnessed it all, whispered in disbelief. It was like a scene from a movie. My friends recounted the events on the plane in detail, all of them expressing awe at Ethan's calmness and decisiveness when I was unconscious, and praising his precision. During my recovery, Ethan would visit at the same time every day. Sometimes he brought local herbal tea, other times he brought seasonal fruits he said were good for recovery, peeling them for me. We need to make sure the air in your lung has fully restored, he said. Since I performed the first aid, I want to take responsibility until the end. His sincere words made my heart flutter. This is like a romantic movie, Marie whispered playfully in my ear. Though I blushed at my friend's teasing, I couldn't say I disliked his attention. The night before I was discharged, I gathered my courage and spoke to Ethan. You're my savior. Please at least let me buy you dinner as a thank you. He smiled shyly and replied, in that case, how about you try some real Texas barbecue? And that was the beginning of our first date. Our first dinner took place the day after I was discharged from the hospital. Ethan took me to a quiet, atmospheric restaurant near the hospital. I had tried American food in France, but the authentic taste was completely different. Ethan kindly explained each dish and even showed me the proper way to eat brisket, step by step. Here in the South, we have a culture of sharing food. It's about taking care of each other, like family, he explained. As he spoke, I could feel the warmth in his words. During the meal, we got to know each other better. Ethan ran a small integrative wellness center on the outskirts of Austin. He explained that after getting his DO, Doctor of Osteopathic Medicine degree, he continued to study holistic and natural medicine because his philosophy was that understanding both disciplines allowed him to better treat his patients. How is osteopathic medicine viewed in Europe? He asked. To be honest, I said, for most people, including myself before this, it's still a bit of a mystery and sometimes met with skepticism. But after you saved my life, I realize how senseless those prejudices are. He's not very well known, but since you saved me, I'm now a firm believer. My words made him laugh. Ethan told me about his simple daily life. He woke up early to meditate, started his day by caring for patients at his clinic, and sometimes traveled out of state to source specific herbal remedies. His stories were filled with a sincerity towards his patients that wasn't just about curing diseases, but about healing both the body and the mind, something that modern medicine often forgets. The body and mind are inseparable, he said. Both must be in balance for true health. His words were simple, yet profound. After dinner, Ethan asked how much longer I would be in Texas. According to my flight schedule, I had been given additional leave after my standby period. The original plan was to spend 2 days in Austin and then travel elsewhere, but the sudden hospitalization had ruined all my plans. And because of it, I had met this man, and I didn't want to let this opportunity slip away. Could you show me around Austin? My shy question made Ethan smile. Of course, he replied. We made plans to meet the next day. On the way back to the hotel, I felt a strange excitement. My feelings for Ethan were more than just gratitude. It was a deep curiosity about who he was. His calm voice, his warm concern, and above all, the decisiveness that saved my life. Those images replayed in my mind. When I got back to the hotel and met my friends, they all greeted me with concern. Sophie, Mary, and the others asked about the incident on the plane again, and of course the conversation turned to Ethan. I told them how kind and helpful he had been. So, was that a date with the osteopath? Sophie teased. It wasn't a date, just a thank you dinner, I said, though I could feel my face flush. An osteopath? Even if he saved your life, can you really call him a doctor? Marie asked with a doubtful expression. They are not fully recognized in Europe, are they? Her words made me feel instantly uncomfortable. Ethan had saved my life, and to say he wasn't a real doctor felt incredibly unfair. But explaining the cultural differences wasn't easy. Whatever kind of doctor he is, the fact is, he saved my life, I replied firmly. The next day, Ethan picked me up at the hotel as promised. He showed me the beauty of Zilker Park and the vibrant quirky shops on South Congress. The energy of the city, the laid-back vibe of the people, the green oasis of the park. Spending time with Ethan was like experiencing the real Texas, the one you don't find in guidebooks. We have a strong sense of community here, Ethan explained. We call it Southern hospitality. It's about thinking of others and sharing what you have. And I could feel that hospitality everywhere I went in Austin, from the restaurant that gave an extra side dish to a customer they'd never met before, to the kindness of people helping a lost tourist find their way, and above all, in the warm concern Ethan showed me. On the way back to my hotel, Ethan made an unexpected offer. Would you like to visit my clinic tomorrow? I'd like you to see what integrative medicine is really like. I accepted with pleasure. I was genuinely curious about his work and what he was so passionate about. When I told my friends about the plan back at the hotel, their reactions were still filled with skepticism. Are you going to get your bones cracked? Aren't you scared? Sophie asked. I hear those herbal remedies taste awful, Marie added, making a face. But no matter how doubtful they were, I was looking forward to my visit with Ethan. The next day, I visited Ethan's clinic. It was a small but immaculately clean space with a faint, pleasant scent of herbs. On the walls were anatomical charts of the musculoskeletal system. Ethan explained the basic principles of osteopathic medicine, from diagnosis through touch to manipulative treatments and herbal pharmacology. If conventional medicine often treats the symptoms, our approach focuses on finding the root cause to restore the body's natural balance, he explained clearly. That evening, Ethan invited me and my friends to dinner at a local farm-to-table restaurant. He said he wanted us to experience Austin's food culture properly. The atmosphere was a bit awkward at first, but Ethan's calm and gentle demeanor gradually put everyone at ease. We were so shocked when Claire collapsed on the plane. She's usually so strong, Marie recounted. Tall, slender individuals can be more susceptible to pressure changes, especially on long-haul flights, Ethan explained professionally. His explanation piqued my friends' interest. They began asking about health problems common among flight attendants, and Ethan answered each question patiently. Soon, the mood at the table completely changed. Sophie in particular asked Ethan many questions, showing a clear interest in him. If I were in Austin longer, could I come for a treatment? Her tone was slightly flirtatious. In that moment, I felt a strange pang in my heart. Was it discomfort? Or was it jealousy? I was unhappy with Sophie's open interest in Ethan. It was then that I admitted to myself that I was developing special feelings for him. But Ethan simply responded to Sophie's interest politely, without showing any special favor. His gaze often found its way to me throughout the conversation, and every time our eyes met, he would give me a warm smile that made my heart beat faster. After dinner, as we were about to part ways, Ethan spoke to me softly. Are you free tomorrow? I'd like to take you somewhere special. I nodded without hesitation. I was sure now. This feeling was more than just gratitude or curiosity. I was starting to fall for Ethan, and I wanted to spend more time with him. I looked forward to the next day, my heart filled with hope and excitement about where our relationship was heading. The few days I spent with Ethan passed like a dream. Every morning before he started seeing patients at his clinic, he would call to check on me, and he used his free time to show me the beautiful sights of Texas. Thanks to his care, my recovery period in a foreign land became a precious memory. We grew closer and closer, and a deep affection for him had taken root in my heart. One day, while having breakfast in the hotel lobby with my colleagues, Sophie suddenly clutched her shoulder and grimaced. Ugh, why is my shoulder so sore? It gets worse with every flight, she complained. It was then that Marie made a half-joking comment that started it all. Why don't you have Claire's doctor boyfriend take a look? He saved her life after all. Sophie looked intrigued, though still a bit skeptical. The truth was, all my colleagues suffered from minor ailments, from long-haul flying neck and shoulder pain, trouble with jet lag and insomnia, which they mostly dismissed as occupational hazards. If you'd like, I can ask Ethan for you. I offered. Maybe he can help. That afternoon, when I called Ethan, he happily agreed to treat my friends. He even said he was grateful for the opportunity to introduce integrative medicine to Europeans. We set a date and 3 of my colleagues decided to go, half out of curiosity and half out of a desire for relief. On the day of the clinic visit, the taxi ride was filled with their nervous questions. Will it really work? Is he going to use needles? Will it hurt? To be honest, I had never received a full treatment from him myself, so I couldn't completely reassure them. All I could say was I trust him. When we arrived, Ethan welcomed us with his usual warm smile. His clinic was more modern than I expected, a tasteful blend of traditional and contemporary design. A faint herbal scent filled the air. And alongside the anatomical charts on the walls were shelves lined with modern medical textbooks. Ethan began by explaining the basic principles of his practice, focusing on the balance of the body's interconnected systems. It was a new concept for us, but his clear explanation made it easy to understand. He particularly captured everyone's attention when he analyzed the effects of our job on the body from an osteopathic perspective. Being in the same position for long periods, the cabin pressure and the irregular lifestyle can obstruct the flow of fluids and nerve signals, he explained. That's why flight attendants often experience chronic pain. His analysis was spot on. Sophie was the first to be treated. She suffered from chronic neck and shoulder pain. Ethan began by taking her pulse and assessing her overall condition. He then carefully examined her neck and shoulders, pinpointing the problem areas. There's a lot of tension here, he said. The muscles and cervical vertebrae are very tight. I'll use some osteopathic manipulative treatment and cupping to release it. As the treatment began, we all tensed up. Sophie closed her eyes tightly, but Ethan's hands were incredibly skilled. He watched Sophie's reaction with every gentle manipulation, ensuring minimal discomfort. A few minutes later, Sophie's expression changed in surprise. It doesn't hurt at all. It actually feels good. Her voice was filled with astonishment. After the manipulation, he applied cups to her back. Seeing the circular marks left behind, Marie couldn't help but laugh. Sophie, you're turning into a leopard. But after the treatment, Sophie's expression was visibly more relaxed. She turned her head from side to side in amazement. I can't believe it. The stiffness I've had for years feels so much better. Sophie's candid praise made the others look at Ethan with newfound curiosity. Marie was next. She had chronic ankle pain, a common problem for flight attendants who wear heels and stand for long hours. Her case was more severe due to an old sprain. Ethan stimulated various points around her ankle, applied a special herbal salve, and used a gentle technique to realign the joint. Last was Juliet, who suffered from severe migraines. Ethan performed cranial osteopathy and prepared a warm herbal tea for her to drink. Throughout the treatments, his demeanor was serious yet attentive. He constantly communicated with his patients, easing their anxieties and explaining the principles and effects of each method in simple terms. The most amazing thing was my friends' reactions afterward. Sophie's shoulder felt light for the first time in years. Marie said the pain when she rotated her ankle was significantly reduced, and Juliet's headache had subsided. On their faces, all skepticism had vanished, replaced by surprise and gratitude. On our way out, Sophie sincerely thanked Ethan. That was incredible. Western doctors just gave me painkillers, but you found the real cause and treated it. Ethan smiled humbly. The two disciplines can complement each other. Each has its strengths. In the taxi back, the conversation was completely different. The suspicious attitude towards osteopathic medicine was gone, replaced by curiosity and a desire to learn more. Sophie, in particular, was openly smitten. That doctor is amazing, so skilled and handsome too. Claire, you're so lucky. Everyone laughed at her comment, but I felt a knot in my stomach. Later that evening, I received a text from Ethan. How are your friends feeling? Any discomfort? His thoughtful message made me smile. When I called to tell him about their positive reactions, he sounded genuinely pleased. The next morning, Sophie approached me. Claire, are you and Ethan actually together? When I hesitated, she continued. If not, do you mind if I make a move? He's really charming." Her words made my heart clench. Even though Ethan and I weren't officially a couple, the thought of someone else pursuing him, especially Sophie, who was beautiful, cheerful, and popular, made me feel sick. What if she got closer to him? The very idea was unsettling. "We haven't defined our relationship," I answered carefully, "but we have a special connection." Sophie smiled playfully. "Okay." That afternoon, I had a date with Ethan. He invited me to Zilker Park. We walked along the trail by the lake, talking about the previous day and my friends' reactions. Honestly, I admitted, at first my friends didn't believe in osteopathic medicine. They questioned if it was even real medicine. Ethan smiled and nodded. "It's a reaction I'm used to. I encountered it a lot when I was studying abroad, but the results speak for themselves." "Sophie seems quite taken with you." The words slipped out before I could stop them. Ethan stopped walking and looked directly into my eyes. A warm smile played on his lips. "Claire," he said, his voice sincere, "for me, I only see you." His words sent my heart racing. That evening, we had a drink together and talked more deeply. He told me about his childhood dream of becoming a doctor, his reasons for shifting his focus from conventional to integrative medicine, and his philosophy of patient care. Every story was filled with sincerity, and I found myself falling for him even more. On the way back to the hotel after dinner, Ethan gently took my hand. In that moment, all my anxiety and doubt melted away. The feeling between us was clear and needed no words. Ethan was the one I chose, and he had chosen me. The worry in my heart had turned into confidence, just as my friends' attitudes had changed. My scheduled stay in Texas was coming to an end. The thought of having to return to Paris weighed heavily on me. The time I had spent with Ethan meant more to me than just a trip. He was my savior and, without me realizing it, had found a place deep in my heart. During our last breakfast together in the hotel lobby, Sophie nudged me. "Claire, your boyfriend is a miracle worker. My shoulder pain is completely gone." Her eyes were filled with sincere admiration. Marie nodded in agreement. I was skeptical at first, hearing he was an osteopath, but my ankle feels so much better. "You'd never find a doctor like that in France." "He has a special gift," Juliet added. "It's not just his technique but his genuine care for his patients." I could feel that their initial gazes of condescension and mockery had transformed into respect and admiration. Their prejudice against his profession had vanished, replaced by a curiosity to learn more. My friend's acceptance made me feel incredibly proud. So, what's next? We all have to fly back to Paris tomorrow? Marie's question made my heart sink further. In truth, I had been asking myself the same question. There was a growing possibility I might not be able to return to my job as a flight attendant, and I was contemplating my next move. Back in my room packing, my phone rang. It was a call from the airline. My heart pounded. Was I about to be fired because of my collapsed lung? The call was exactly what I had feared. The medical officer asked about my condition and discussed my return to flying. "Miss Dubois, based on the doctor's assessment, there's a high probability of a recurrence of your pneumothorax, especially in an environment with frequent pressure changes." The officer's voice was grave. "Initially, we recommend you remain in Texas for now. For your safety, we advise transitioning to a ground-based role. You should avoid flying for at least 6 to 12 months. After hanging up, I stared out the window, lost in thought for a long time. A life where I wasn't a flight attendant. A life where I wasn't flying. Losing the career I loved was a huge blow, as if a part of my identity had been erased. How will I live now? I muttered to myself. Just then, a message from Ethan popped up. "Are you free this evening? I want to take you somewhere special." His message momentarily chased away my gloomy thoughts. I replied immediately. That evening, Ethan picked me up at the hotel. He seemed a little more nervous than usual. His car took us to a beautiful restaurant on the shores of Lake Travis. The view of the sunset from our table was breathtaking. During dinner, I confided in him about my fears, the doctor's recommendation to stop flying, the confusion, and the sense of loss that followed. Ethan listened attentively, understanding my feelings. "Claire," he said, his words filled with a deep wisdom, "sometimes life presents us with unexpected turning points. But they aren't always bad things." After dessert was served, Ethan took a small box out of his pocket. My heart began to pound. He opened the box to reveal a ring. "If I hadn't opened your shirt on that plane that day, you might not be sitting here now. But in that moment, I didn't just save your life, I found my own." His voice trembled slightly but was full of conviction. "Claire, would you consider building a life with me? Let's start a new life together here in Texas." Tears streamed down my cheeks. In that moment, everything became clear. I might have lost the sky, but I had found a greater happiness. I nodded without hesitation. "Yes, I'd like that." The next day, I told my friends my decision. The news that I wouldn't be returning to Paris and would stay in Texas to start a new life with Ethan shocked them at first, but they soon offered their heartfelt congratulations. "Honestly, seeing you two together is like watching a movie," Sophie smiled. "I guess destiny is real after all." Over the next 6 months, I slowly adapted to life in Texas. The biggest initial hurdle was the language. I attended classes 2 hours a day to practice conversational English. I started by volunteering at Ethan's clinic, helping to translate for foreign patients, which became my first social activity. Soon after, using my experience as a flight attendant, I started a part-time job at a medical tourism consultancy near the Austin airport. I experienced the 4 seasons in Texas for the first time, from the blooming wildflowers in the spring to the dramatic summer thunderstorms. I spent holidays with Ethan's family, gradually learning about American traditions. As an outsider, the US could seem strange at times, but with Ethan by my side, I was confident that this place could become my new home. The wedding preparations moved quickly. My parents were worried at first, but after meeting Ethan over a video call, they began to open up. His sincerity and warmth transcended the language barrier. 2 months later, they flew to Texas for the wedding. Meeting Ethan's parents for the first time, I was very nervous, worried that a traditional Texan family might not accept a foreign daughter-in-law. But their incredibly warm welcome dispelled all my fears. Ethan's mother hugged me tightly and said, "I can't believe our son found such a beautiful woman. It's like he brought an angel home." The meeting of our two families was a novel experience. There was some initial awkwardness due to cultural differences, but the air was soon filled with laughter and warmth. My father struggled with the Texan-sized portions of barbecue, and everyone cheered when he finally finished a rib. Ethan's parents had prepared French greetings like bonjour and bienvenue, an effort that deeply touched my parents. "Even if the languages are different, the hearts can connect," my mother said after the dinner. During the wedding planning, I began to study English seriously, and Ethan started learning French. We were understanding and respecting each other's cultures and building a new one of our own together. On our wedding day, my flight attendant friends Sophie, Marie, and Juliet were there, having taken special leave to attend. As we exchanged vows, Ethan's eyes were filled with a deep love. I said in a trembling voice, "You saved my life, and now you have become the man of my life. This moment is a new beginning." Ethan held my hand tightly and replied, "Meeting you was the greatest fortune of my life. We will be by each other's side through every moment from now on." At the reception, Sophie came to whisper to me, "I need to find myself a Texas man like that. I'm so jealous of you." The story of our wedding was published in the airline's newsletter under the headline, "A Fated Love Story Written in the Sky." The romantic tale of a flight attendant and a doctor who met during an in-flight emergency captured the hearts of many. After the wedding, I often helped counsel foreign patients at Ethan's clinic. I also started giving small talks to introduce integrative medicine to Western tourists using my own experience. It was a special feeling to see people who, like me, once had prejudices, discover its value. One day, while walking along the lake with Ethan on the anniversary of the plane incident, I looked at the city lights reflecting on the water and thought back on the past year. "Maybe the darkest moments in our lives are the beginning of the brightest light," I said. Ethan squeezed my hand. "We'll walk the path ahead together. This is just the beginning." And so, I began my new life in Texas, with the man I was destined to meet in the sky. Instead of the sky I lost due to my illness, I found a much greater happiness. A new path had opened up before me, and having someone to walk it with was the greatest blessing of all.